So welcome once again to Living in the 21st Century. Joining me today is Vasil Shevchenko, former Transport Minister of Ukraine. Vasil, it's a pleasure to have you on today.
Nice to hear you, my friend Errol.
Yes.
And nice to hear all Americans who are with us. Nice to see you.
Beautiful. You know, since we haven't last talked in like over a month now, the Ukraine had taken on a new face. The last set of information I get is that Russia has somewhat seized Mariupol. Is that true?
Yes, it's really a difficult situation because Ukrainian forces are fighting in Mariupol, and they were surrounded about 3 months, and they were fighting before they had ammunition, and they didn't have civilians who were in Mariupol still planned shelters together with the civilians. And now they received order from headquarters, and they decided to agree that they will help civilians to go to Ukrainian territory, and then they agree that they will be exchanged for Russian militaries who are Ukrainian military prisoners. Ukraine have taken Russian soldiers about more than 1,000, and they hope that we will exchange them for Ukrainian soldiers who were at this occupied territory.
One thing that I can't seem to understand. Now, President Zelensky once mentioned that they will make sure they reclaim every piece of the Ukrainian soil, even if Russia is supposed to hold seize to any part of it. What frame of mind do you think Zelensky is in right now, considering that Russia probably has the upper hand in Mariupol?
Well, first of all, I'd say that Zelensky was criticized very often before the war, but his behavior after start of war was really cool, and he decided to stay with Ukrainians in Ukraine. He was in occupied capital of Ukraine, and in my opinion, he changed his impressions, and he is changed. He is different, and now I can hear him at the press conference, and I'm surprised that he is a real Ukrainian leader. And now I spoke with my friends from different countries, and all of them confirmed that now he is freedom leader in the world, and it's good because his behavior and his action is really needed in is necessary in current situation for Ukraine. And concerning situation with surrounded by Russia troops, Ukrainian soldiers, I'd say that he have done all he could. He tried to send them medicines, food, ammunition, and according to his information from his press conference, 90% Ukrainians helicopters were shooted down, and a lot of Ukrainian pilots were killed. They couldn't manage to in this region. Russia focused a lot of anti-long-range aircraft, anti-aircraft missiles, and they managed to cover the sky in above the Mariupol, and because of it, they received opportunity to bomb Mariupol from bombers who didn't get to Ukrainian territory, and they were shelling Ukrainians city defenders from long distance. Ukraine don't have this type of system to prevent their actions and to help Ukrainian soldiers. And because of it, we were limited in instruments to help our soldiers in this really cruel battle. But today I can say that I heard that United States Parliament voted for support more than 40 billion for Ukraine, which include supplying to Ukraine long-range missiles, which Patriots defend our sky from enemies. And I'd like to say that territory which is far than 100 kilometers deeper in Ukraine is defended by Ukrainians who are fighting in the sky, and more than 80% missiles and aircrafts were shot down. I'd like to remember that now Ukrainian military forces have shot down more than 200 Russia's fighters, and is about 200 Russia's helicopters, and thousands of Russia tanks, and a lot of armed vehicles, Russia Federation. And I'd like to say that Ukraine is fighting with weapon which was produced in Soviet era and is produced in Ukraine, and now Ukraine has a lot of support from our allies. I'd say that United States is main our partners, which provide us long-range artillery and anti-aircraft systems, and by funding support Ukrainian budget. And for it, I'd like to say all Americans who are involved in this decision, who are working every day in this sphere, and help us. We really understand you are our big friends, and I can say exactly that there are a lot of volunteers from United States current days helps us. They gives us advice and help us in really difficult situation. It's really important for us, and I'd say that now we hope that together we will be stronger, because in my opinion, Ukrainians are fighting for democracy because crazy dictator decided to occupy Ukraine. But if it happened, will be another country, and we will have a lot more cruelties around the world.
Beautiful. One question I want to ask you is the enthusiasm and resistance that the Ukrainians put up in the first beginning of this war. Is that enthusiasm and resistance still as important now?
Yes, now there are a lot of Ukrainians who are waiting to be joined to military forces and are ready to defend our country. I'd like to remember that when Russia tried to occupy the capital of Ukraine, all Ukrainians, women, children, elder Ukrainians, and soldiers and National Guard, all together were fighting with higher equipped and higher armed Russia's troops, and they tried to surround the Ukrainian capital, but they didn't manage because Ukrainians were fighting at every corner, and we managed to drive them out in this place. And now they changed their goal, and they decided that they will fighting for two regions, and they haven't received any success. But I can say that there are a lot of really difficult battles, and in current days, a lot of Ukrainian soldiers are fighting for every piece Ukrainian land. But at the same time, we are waiting support because to have in the same condition, Ukrainians need new technology, aircrafts, and long-range anti-aircraft systems, and a lot of new technology and munitions. Because I'd tell that we have received from our neighbors fighters, better to say, spare parts for fighters, and Ukraine managed to all technologies fighters, and we are fighting well, because the Russia's casualties really high. And if we receive this new technologies, more sophisticated weapon, we will be ready to offense, to liberate our territory, which is now under Russia's occupation. But it depends on our allies, and I know that there are a lot of negotiations between our countries, and I know that American presidents really does a lot for Ukrainian,
Yes.
and he acts every moment to help Ukraine. And I know that he is really pro-Ukrainian, and he is, I can say that he is patriot of Ukraine, because he have done a lot for Ukraine, and is still working with us. And it's really important, and really really deep help for us.
Right. One of the things I'm looking at seriously is that President Zelensky had encouraged and really give that invigoration to motivate his people to stand strong in this time. Now, having said that, a lot of Ukrainians had been now spread throughout the earth as refugees, some to neighboring nations, and I believe there are like trillions of dollars probably in damages that Russia would have inflicted upon Ukraine in dismantling buildings and its natural resources in some cases. What state of mind would the Ukrainians have after this war, and how would it affect the economic structure in building back?
I can say that now Ukraine is changing. For example, it's true that there were more than 6 million refugees from Ukraine, and we really thankful for our neighbors who helped Ukrainians who were forced to leave capital and other Ukrainian city. But now I tell you that a lot more people is coming back from our neighbors' country to join to military troops or to restore their business to support Ukraine economy, because in military time government changed situation in tax sphere, and now companies can pay a couple percents, but they are still holding workers, and they are still their business, and because of it, Russia Federation decided to block Ukrainian ports, and I'd like to say that Ukraine is provider about 15% corn around the world, and because of it, there is threat for poor nations who are in United Nations programs, and United Nations leaders confirmed that United Nations is interested in deblockading Ukrainians' seaport to give us opportunity to provide poor countries because of threat of famine. And now I can say that there is no any decision in this sphere, and we is still holding negotiations with Poland, who decided to help us, and we are looking for new way to provide contracts from Ukrainian company to different companies around the world according to the United Nations responsibilities. And the same time, I'd say that European country is interested in deeper cooperation, and are going to help us to transport Ukrainians raw materials to Poland, North ports, and other country. We can do it, but now lack of trucks and lack of railway wagon, but I think we will manage to solve this problem with our partners, and we will fulfill our obligation in this really dark time for Ukraine. But we are a responsible nation, and we will still working with our partners, and we believe that we will manage to overcome these difficulties, and we are sure that with our partners, with European partners, we will manage to build new routes for Ukrainians goods zones.
Great. Many of your neighboring nations who were a member of NATO are now considering strongly to become a member. What message will this send to Putin? What do you think Putin will do eventually if remain in power?
Now, I'd say that first result of this war that Sweden and Finland is going to join to NATO countries, and it's country which decided to make their decision because of Russia's threat. And I had at first I had Russia's official opinion that they to form new military units, close these borders, and then they told that there are no threat from Sweden and Finland for Russia Federation. But I think it's lie, because now they cannot hold any military operation, because during 3 months Ukrainian forces have eliminated more about 30,000 Russian soldiers, and we have a lot of prisoners, and the Ukrainian forces have eliminated the equipment Russia's military troops, and at the same time we understand that they have really serious sanctions against their economy, and the sanctions results of the sanction will appear in few months, because now foreign companies who stopped their action in Russia Federation is still paying salary for former workers according to the law, and in few months they will be unemployed, and they will face this with rising prices for food. They will not be provided the number of goods, and sanctions will be growing and growing.
Okay.
And I understand that now there is really serious energy relation between European Union and Russia Federation, and now I understand that it's connected with war in Ukraine, and I understand this that business groups of these countries are interested in cheap energy resources. But personally, I have spoken with many European nation representatives who has opposite opinion against their business group, which interests are reflected in European biggest countries' politics. And at the same time, I'd say that.
Sorry, one
Sure.
question I want to ask you quickly before we run out of time. Once upon a time, Ukraine was considered the third most powerful military in the world. After this war is finished, what would you think would be its corporate strategy in the military to maintain such a status once again?
But I can say that now is being formed new international law, because all countries who are watching at this war, watching according to their decision to understand who can help them, or how can they defend their countries. And now international law doesn't work. And I have spoken that if United Nation not to change this situation will be formed a new world order. And now all countries understand that weapon it's only guarantee to survive in the battle with a more stronger neighbor, stronger or aggressive neighbor. But I'd say that Russia troops is known second biggest army in the world, and the Ukrainian forces slowly has eliminating Russia second biggest army in the world. And it means that if people has courage, they can fight to any enemies, and if Ukrainians are fighting against more powerful enemy, we received support from every country around the world, and we understand it, and we feel it every day. But we focus on that to have the same opportunity with Russia Federation. It's necessary for Ukraine to have the same time sophisticated weapon. And we will show how can fight Ukrainian forces liberating Ukrainian territory, which now is under Russia occupation.
Beautiful. Well, Vasil, we have come to the last few seconds of our show, and certainly this won't be the last moment we will be keeping informed as to what's going on in Ukraine. And I want to thank you for coming on this morning, explaining what's going on. But we shall talk again. And for all those who have been tuning in to Living in the 21st Century, I want to say thank you, and I hope you do keep insightful as to what's going on in Ukraine, that beautiful nation, beautiful people. Vasil, my brother, take good care. We will talk again.
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
Sure.